The average strokes drop that we're seeing in our 3-month program right now is 6.7 shots in 90 days or less. I'm a big performance and numbers and results type of person. I tell people all the time, if you can't measure it, then you have no basis. It's like whenever a patient comes to see a doctor and they broke their bone, well, it's very easy to point that out on an X-ray or an MRI. And you got to be able to do that in golf. And I think the sad part in this game, a lot of instructors are missing that piece. And I think if golfers and instructors alike can up that part of the game, and that's why the summit's not just for the everyday golfer, it's also for the everyday instructor too. And we were very adamant about doing that. It's an education experience for them as well. And I really believe if they can go through this and they start adding this into their everyday interaction with golfers, this game as a whole is going to improve across the board.
Golf Smarter number 792. This week's episodes of Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are brought to you by dynamicgolfers.com/golfsmarter. Join me and over 4,000 golfers worldwide that make Dynamic Golfers part of our daily workout routine. Get a 7-day free trial and 15% off your membership with checkout code GolfSmarter. Stay tuned to hear more about dynamicgolfers.com. The Consistent Golf Summit returns featuring an impressive new lineup for 2021 with Bo Watson.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Greene.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Bo.
Hey, Fred. Glad to be back.
Glad to have you back. You have been busy, and that's why I wanted to bring you back, because last year when you were on, we talked about your Consistent Golf Summit, and we got a bunch of people to sign up for it. I'm sure, knowing this audience, they love this stuff. And then we also had some of the people that you featured on the summit on the podcast as well. But here you are, year number 2, your second annual, and I'm going to say second annual because I have a feeling you're going to be doing this every year for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So explain the Consistent Golf Summit.
The summit, when you break it down, there's twofold to this. Number one, the biggest thing that most golfers struggle with is consistency. I see it all the time in my golf school. You see it in every other golf school out there, and people are going online and they're looking for, how do I get better at the game, whether it be fixing fat, thin shots, whether it be fixing a shank, whether it be fixing, a pull or a hook or a slice, all those things. And they're all wrapped under that term consistency. And it's so funny because even in my in-person golf school, people come to me and they go, I'm looking for consistency. Well, that's such a broad term. And so that's where we came up with the name Consistent Golf Summit, because it really tackles all those issues that golfers struggle with on a day-to-day basis. Now, the reason why we created it was, number one, to tackle inconsistency, even though Mike Hebron would kill me for saying that word, but it's what it's what the regular, everyday, weekend warrior golfer, they can wrap their brains around that. And I totally get it. So that's number one. Number two is, when we created it, and the reason for creating this summit was because I remember coming across a study with the National Golf Foundation about 2 years ago, and it was right before we hosted the inaugural summit. And it was sad because I was looking at the research, and they showed that 1.5 million golfers were quitting the game every single year. And when I dove into why, 500,000 was due to aging out, and then roughly about 1 million were quitting. In another study that linked to that was due to frustration. And so I started diving deep into that, and I found it in my in-person golf schools. I found it with the online forums, and everybody was looking for one way or another to try to get better at this game. But the problem was they were looking in all the wrong places. And if they were looking in the right places, number one, they didn't know how to take the information that they were looking at and be able to apply that to their game. And so they're going on YouTube, going on forums, all these different places. Oh my goodness, the absolute worst. And I'm laughing as I'm thinking about this, going into Facebook groups and asking everybody in the Facebook group, what's wrong with my swing? And that is an absolute disaster. I feel sorry for that.
Oh my God. That's like hey, listen, I'm a single today. Can I join you guys? Sure. Can you give me lessons while we're playing? It's like, what do you? That's crazy.
Oh, Fred, it's even worse than that. It would be like going to, let's say you had like a very specific issue going wrong in your health, like maybe it's cancer related. It would be like going to 100 friends at a party. Like you're going to 100 friends at a party and say, "Hey guys, what's wrong with my issue?" And we're like, we're just throwing crap against the wall and hoping something sticks. And that's what we're
Or,
seeing in
or it's like
forums.
going to Facebook and going, "What's wrong with me?"
I mean, that's literally what we're seeing right now. And so
Oh,
I
wow.
was like, oh my gosh, there's got to be a better way. And now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people, and I have good friends that I've come to have great relationships with that are in the YouTube space, and they got some really good content out there, especially like Adam Bazalgett, Chris Ryan, me and my golf. They got a lot of good things as well. But there's also a lot of people out there that are publishing, and I'm not going to name names, but a lot of it is just horrible stuff. And the problem that we're seeing is these golfers don't know the difference. They're going on YouTube, and it's almost like they're going into these places and getting generalized answers when they could be going to the expert and getting a direct answer from the expert. Same thing, going back to that cancer diagnosis, heaven forbid, none of that ever happens to any of you guys. But when you look at that, if you had something like that serious, why in the world would you go to a general health practitioner? You wouldn't do it. It doesn't make sense. It's not that they're not great. I mean, they do a lot of really good stuff, but any person in their sane mind is going to go to a specialist on that topic. So when we created the Consistent Golf Summit, what we did is we went out and sought out the expert that is worldwide recognized as the go-to person in that space when it comes to maybe like short game, or putting, or full swing, or chipping, or mental game, or it might be fitness. And that's what we did. And that's where we went and created and found people like Sean Foley, Scott Fawcett with Decade. Now he's got the craze around Will Zalatoris at the Masters this past year. And I mean, part of that is what Decade has done to a lot of these up and coming golfers. And we have, Dr. Brett McCabe on the summit. We've had Andrew Rice and James Seekman when it covers the wedge play. We had my mentor, David Orr, one of the world's best in terms of putting and the research that he's brought to the table. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But we're very, very selective on who we bring into that summit.
That's awesome. It's interesting because I, I kind of raised my hand when you talked about all these bad places that are out there, because I get emails from people asking me for advice, and I'm like, wait, if you've not been listening, I can't give advice. I'm here asking questions of these people like you because that's what you do. I'm here just to ask the questions. I'm not a golf instructor. I never wanted to be. And I'm not qualified in the least to give out advice. So, but you could still write to me.
Right.
Wait a minute. Why would Mike Hebron kill you for saying consistent?
Oh, that's too funny. Number one, because consistency doesn't exist. And I'll tell you, he went into great depth on the summit in the very first session. It's the very reason why we had his session as the number one session that we want every single one of our attendees to go through. Because really it all comes down to learning. So there's a foundation, and we have this thing set up in a certain way where people have to go through each particular interview and session in order to ultimately get to their ultimate goal, which is, in their terms, consistency. Mike believes that you never hit the same shot 2 times in a row. That's just not possible. What will happen is things will take place and it'll be different. It's a different result. If you hit a shot to the right and then you hit the very next shot to the left, we know that's to be different. Better is kind of a loose term for him. But when you really dive deep down into the whole situation when it comes to consistency, it's all about everything is changing and working from the environment, coming back to the golfer. And it's really, really cool when he goes deep into that. I don't want to give too much away.
Okay.
Because
I'm going to keep grilling you. We got plenty of time here, so I don't want you to give too much. But what define consistent? Like for me, my last 2 rounds, I shot 44, 44, 43, 44. Okay, on my 9 holes on the 2 18-hole rounds. So I was like, okay, that's consistent. Now, did I screw up in each of my 9? Could I have shot a 39 or a 40? Sure, if I would have made that short putt that right. So I get that not every shot's, because you can't. It's impossible to have the same 2 shots in a row that are going to be the same, because you're hitting from different places, among other things.
Right.
And you're using different clubs all the way through. That's kind of like why I'm really enjoying my single length irons right now, because I have the same one. But yeah, define consistency for me? When somebody comes to you and says, I want to be consistent, what would you tell them?
I like to put, like, if I use my in-person golf school, I like to put a number on everything. I take the approach much like Scott Fawcett does, and we like to quantify things. So when you look at consistency, one of the first things I look for is, okay, that's such a broad term. Let's unpack that. What does that truly mean to you, the golfer? And every person is going to be different. And that's why I look at the person and I go, okay, I see that full swing and hitting iron shots is a big weakness for you right now. So if we were to hypothetically get you from hitting maybe 3 out of 10, which is currently where you're at right now, as far as like hitting solid shots, and we improve that to 7 or 8 out of 10, is that going to be a win for you? And they're going to be like, absolutely. So then we just took something and we just quantified, hey, here is what the end result is, or the goal that you have. This would be more consistent to the golfer. Because when you look at the consistency term, it's going to be different for every player. It's going to be different for every golfer. And that's why it's so important to finally dive deep into, what does this mean to the individual? And then from there is where you can start defining, okay, here's what consistency looks like for that golfer.
Okay, that works. Hey, let's take a time out. And when we come back, here's what I want to do. The Consistent Golf Summit for 2021 was 3 days long. I want to go through each day and talk about each of the teachers that you have. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about that after this. This episode of Golf Smarter is brought to you by DynamicGolfers.com. It's been nearly a month now of my morning workouts with Dynamic Golfers, and there's no doubt in my mind that I'm increasing my flexibility. But I'm also noticing less stress on my body on the golf course and more distance with each of my clubs. Thank you for continuing to join me for our journey of learning from a wide variety of golf instruction here on Golf Smarter. But when it comes to one-on-one instruction, you know that you can spend thousands and have all the right gear. But if your muscles are imbalanced, you'll never reach the potential you know is hiding in that precious, irreplaceable tool called your body. There are so many benefits from the scientifically developed Dynamic Golfers workout that include targeted mobility and stretching that can accelerate recovery, eliminate hip and lower back pain, and restore a healthy range of motion. So I encourage you to check them out for yourself, to follow their daily video routines that are only 15 to 20 minutes long, and then track your progress, because you will start seeing results within 4 weeks. I know that I have. For only $9.99 a month, $9.99 a month, you can join over 4,000 golfers worldwide that make Dynamic Golfers part of their daily routine. There's even a custom landing page for Golf Smarter listeners at dynamicgolfers.com/golfsmarter. Go there now to get a 7-day free trial and 15% off your membership when you check out using the coupon code GolfSmarter. So please, check them out today and let me know what you think. If it's easier to remember golfsmarter.com, then just click on their banner at the top of our homepage. But don't forget to take advantage of their discount offer. Use the checkout code GolfSmarter at dynamicgolfers.com/golfsmarter. Bo, the Consistent Golf Summit for 2021, has it happened already, or is it coming up? And we're in mid-May right now, mid-May of 2021.
Yes. So we had the first session, or the first summit went live this past April. Went live April 24th through the 27th.
Okay.
However, we are coming back for an encore. And the beautiful thing is we are relaunching the summit live again on May 25th through the 27th, which is going to take place here in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, for all your listeners that are interested. So, yeah, we're going to be relaunching this thing.
Great. May 25th to the 27th. How long of a day is each day of the summit?
So when we launched it last month, it was roughly about 4 hours. So we went from around 9:30 to about 1:15, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's
Eastern Daylight Time.
Yep.
Daylight, not standard.
Yep, you got it. Yep,
Okay.
That's right.
Doesn't matter. Eastern Time. Okay. So what? Each session is how long?
It depends on the speaker, really, and the content that's being delivered, but roughly about 30 to 45 minutes. You know, if you get someone like Dr. Quan, I got to give him a shout out, but he's a professor at heart, but amazing content. He's a guy that's responsible for helping Chris Como with Tiger Woods and now Bryson DeChambeau. And the reason why he's hitting those big bombs off the tee right now, it's not because he beefed up. It's because ultimately he understands how to move his body well. And Dr. Quan, he's a professor at heart down at Texas Women's University, and his presentations tend to take roughly around an hour or so.
Okay, and then are they just one right after the other, or is there a break in between? How does that work?
Yeah, so they will be right after another. There's a few minute break in between as far as where I come back on, give a few updates, things like that in between each session, and then, going right into the next speaker.
And is it more TED Talk oriented, or is it conversational like you and I are doing?
With the actual speaker sessions themselves?
Yeah.
It depends on the actual speaker that's presenting. You know, some of them may be more of a presentation style, like Nick from Golf Tech, Brad from Golf Tech, Dr. Quan, Mike from Super Speed Golf. They all have presentations already prepared. And then for others, you know, like Andrew Rice, Adam, Bazaljet with Scratch Golf Academy, Me and My Golf, those are a little bit more interactive, definitely back and forth.
I get it. Okay. All right. Day one starts. And again, this is going to be the encore event from the April recordings, and it'll be May 25 through May 27, 2021. And you can find that at consistentgolfsummit.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Day one. Who's the first speaker? Let's go through what each person, who they are, and what their specialty is, and why you focused on them.
So day one, the legend himself, Mike Hebron, he is going to be covering the importance of learning, setting up that foundation for how to actually learn and go about getting better at this game. Ultimately, our goal for every person is to get them in a place where they become their own instructor. Mike Hebron is going to set that foundation on day one. Second speaker is going to be Chris Ryan. Don't really need to give an introduction to him, but
yeah, you do.
Those that aren't familiar, Chris has got an awesome following on YouTube, one of the top instructors in the UK, and he is absolutely fantastic at taking complex things and breaking it down into more simpler pieces. And so he's actually going to be speaking more to the beginner golfer, but there's still a lot of foundational pieces in his message that literally sets the stage for a person that is coming into this game, or maybe they're further enough in their game and they're like, I'm not getting better. I don't know what's going on. I need to kind of like rejuvenate the game, so to speak. His session's awesome when it comes to that, because it's laying that foundation in place for them to become their own instructor, and that's their ultimate goal.
And you said, so he's got a big YouTube following. So just Chris Ryan or Chris Ryan Golf on YouTube? Chris Ryan
Golf, you got it.
Okay. And you don't have to run through these so quickly. I want more juice out of what they said. So Chris talks to the beginner golfer, but to everybody. But he's kind of directing this session towards the beginner.
Yeah, so he's going to be talking about how to avoid the frustrations that many golfers encounter when they're first starting out in this game.
Avoid frustrations. Huge topic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then who's after Chris?
So after Chris is a good friend of mine. Actually, his name is Dr. Quinto Paletti. He is known as Dr. Q. And it's really cool for his session because ultimately, when you look at this game, this is a game that is supposed to be enjoyed for a lifetime. And it's unfortunate. And even Dr. Craig Davies, I remember him talking about this on day 2, one of the best in the world in terms of the fitness space and health and all that stuff on PGA Tour. And we'll get to him in a minute. But he actually referenced a study right now, and they had done this, I think, 5-10 years ago. But the study was showing that in every foursome, there is typically one in every foursome that has taken some form of pain medication or painkiller. Yeah. And so ultimately, as they take that for years, what Dr. Davies said, they are probably not playing this game in their 60s and 70s. And so the reason why we had Dr. Q on the first day is because he's covering some foundational things that is ultimately going to get to the root of any person's like health issue and any pain, arthritis, things like that, and how to start reversing that and then ultimately putting you in a position where you can enjoy this game in your later years, which is ultimately what it's all about, especially if you have grandkids. You know, that was something that Dr. Davies referenced on day 2 as well. And this whole thing about, look, you don't think about it in your 30s and 40s and 50s, but you start kind of getting to that position when you're in your 60s and 70s. You want to be, as a grandparent, able to play this game with your grandchild. I have some of my fondest memories playing with my grandparents when I was coming up in the junior golf ranks, right? Definitely want to be able to pass that on. So that's what Dr. Q is going to be talking about.
Wow. I'm listening. I'm having knee pain these days. My appointment's later today. That's really a great topic. Does he happen to suggest changing your diet?
That's going to be one of the places that he'll start for sure.
And he's suggesting a plant-based diet or a vegetarian, or
it really depends on the person. You know, he kind of looks more toward whether it be paleo, carnivore, or a Mediterranean style diet. It's kind of like it depends on the seasons. It's always alternating and changing. But ultimately, I'll tell you this: he impacted my my life. I mean, I tell my story on the summit, and the reason why I even have him on the summit, and it was because ultimately for me, I was in a position where I couldn't even play this game, even though I was teaching it, and all the stuff that I had going on, and went to many doctors, and had a pretty much a last ditch effort, so to speak. Was introduced to him through a mutual friend of ours. Thank God, because ultimately I was able to get to the root of the issue and enjoy this game again, play it as much as I want, and enjoy life. So highly recommend it.
I highly recommend a movie, if this is at all interesting to you, called The Game Changers. Are you familiar with this film?
I think I've heard of
Netflix.
That. Someone referenced it.
Yeah. This is a guy who, high-level champion MMA fighter, got injured, wanted to heal as quickly as possible. So he started talking to some of the elite athletes in the world. And it's like, how are you still playing at that level at your age? Or how have you achieved success to get you that far beyond the competition? And he, after talking to all these people, what's the connecting dots here? And he found the connecting dot. Very entertaining, very informative. And not only is the name of the film The Game Changers, I think it can be a game changer for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, huge. Wow. Dr. Paletti, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah, known as Dr. Q.
Dr. Q. All right. Next, after Dr. Q on day 1.
Well, you've had him on your podcast, and it's the legend himself, Scott Fawcett, the founder of Decade Golf, the person behind all the buzz that many people are seeing right now with Will Zalatoris and what he did at the Masters. And, he's
so wait,
also...
What's their connection? I'm not, because I had Scott on a long, long time ago.
So Scott that's where Scott got his start. He actually caddied for Will Zalatoris in the Texas State Amateur. And this is back when Scott read the book Every Shot Counts by Mark Brody, started doing a deep dive into all that. It's what led him to create the Decade Golf system. And yep. And before the app, he was caddying with Will's for the Texas State Amateur. Basically showed Will how to use the system, and Will ended up winning. And he started applying that. Ultimately got to the point where I think he had, I know last year at that point he had, I think, five USGA titles and 9 NCAA titles in like 5 years. I mean, wow. He's helped Bryson DeChambeau, Cameron Champ. I mean, there's so many guys out there now that know about Scott's system.
Wow. Yeah. My son did a pool. I've talked about this. My son did a pool for the Masters. 90 people in his pool. He came in first because he picked Will Zalatoris. But you get to pick 6 players. 4 of them are the ones that count to your score. And of the 4 that he picked, they all ended in the top 5.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And the ridiculous part about this is, of the 90 people that were in this pool, I came in dead last. And I had some good picks, but even Matthew Wolff, who was DQ'd for the Masters, but not only did I come in dead last, my son was like plus 30. He was 5 strokes ahead of the guy in second place. I was 27 strokes behind 89. I was so bad.
Ouch.
All right. And is Scott the end of day one? Is that how you wrap up day one?
We had to wrap it up with my mentor, David Orr. So he'll be capping off the day one sessions. He covers putting, well-renowned in putting. He was the putting coach for Justin Rose, Hunter Mahan, Paul Casey, Suzanne Patterson, Amy Yang, so many.
Wow. So he's all putting. You end up day one with all putting.
Yeah. So if you struggle with putting on the greens and you got frustrations there, this is one session you have got to watch.
And we've got to get him on the show. Can we get him on Golf Smarter too?
We probably actually could. He's been doing a few podcasts here and there, so he'd probably be up for it.
Awesome. All right. That's the end of day one, right?
Yep.
All right. Let's take a break and then we'll come back for day 2. Last week on the latest episode of Radio Baseball Cards, we heard from a major leaguer who was probably not known beyond the teams he played for or for the folks who followed his impressive Northern California high school career. But growing up, infielder Buddy Biancalana loved sports, but didn't have a star player that he looked up to. Nope, his hero wasn't an athlete at all.
Here's another Radio Baseball Card. Buddy Biancalana grew up watching the A's win 3 world titles, yet his hero never played ball in the Oakland Coliseum.
I really didn't have any heroes as a kid growing up as far as baseball players go. I went to a lot of games. I grew up watching the Giants and the A's play. And I never really idolized any players or tried to pattern myself after anybody. And then I saw Bruce Springsteen in 1978 and thought,
if you're a baseball fan or a fan of history or maybe a fan of baseball history, then you should follow us and enjoy these amazing and amusing short stories as told by the greatest players of the 20th century. Radio Baseball Cards with Don Drysdale, originally created in 1987, is now available from wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Why am I talking about my master's pool again? Oh, I'm so painful. Hey, Bo. Don't need to do that, Fred. All right, day 2, Consistent Golf Summit 2021. Who opens it up?
So we got Dr. Craig Davies on day 2, first session. He is actually the top 50. Well, no, he's actually the Golf Digest fitness advisor to choosing the top 50 Golf Digest fitness professionals out there. So he is basically really good friends with Sean Foley. Okay. He's actually Sean's travel partner on the PGA Tour. So he and Sean have been together for so many years since they moved down from Canada. absolutely phenomenal guy when it comes to figuring out how to maximize a person's potential. And he even gave away an amazing course, only charging $1. But basically, that 8-week course that he just pretty much gave away, that he should charge at least $500 to $1,000, in my opinion. He's basically showing people how to maximize their rotation to where they can at least gain maybe 15 to 30 yards off the tee.
Wow.
And more importantly, when everybody looks at guys on TV, and you can find the ones that are like, oh my goodness, I want to have that person swing. It looks so effortless. Well, the reason why it looks so effortless is because of the rotation that they're generating inside their body. Dr. Davies is going to show you what that looks like and how to start applying that inside that course. But he talks more about it in that one-on-one session that we have on the summit.
Awesome. That's a great one. Good job. Number 2, day 2.
So we got Brad Skopejka from Golf Tech, one of the best out there in terms of everything club fitting. He does a fantastic job breaking it down why club fitting is important and vital to the golfer. And ultimately, when you look at his session, it's really like, we even put it on the Summit page, why club fitting or getting custom fit is almost like taking steroids for your game. Because when you ultimately break it down, it truly is. Because when you get your swing in a place where it's starting to feel more repeatable, then it makes sense to go get custom fit, especially when you're at a place, especially further along, I would say, in your journey of maybe you're like a single digit, maybe you're about that 10, 15 handicap, you're starting to get to that range. Oh my goodness, it can be like taking steroids when you go and get custom fit for irons and a driver. I've had students when I've sent people to several club fitters that I trust, and they will come back to me after that. And it's not a surprise to me when I see them jump 15, 30 yards off the tee, and maybe they gain maybe 10, 12 yards with their irons or more. I mean, it's just a common thing that I see all the time. So that's why club fitting is so important. And he goes in depth on how to utilize that for your game.
I'm going to bring this up. I need you as my teacher right now. I'm playing different irons. I mentioned I'm playing single length irons now. And I'm enjoying them. I really am. But I'm also hitting it farther than I used to. And I'm like, but I'm not sure I trust it. So it's like, okay, I usually hit this 120, but last time I hit it 130, and I've got 118 to go to get the ball to where I need to be. And I go with the longer club, and then I fly it over the green. At what point do I trust myself that that these distances are right?
It's like what we coach our one-on-one students. So we have a lot of tour players that we work with. And one of the things I have challenged them to do, very similar to what Scott preaches in his decade system, is you go to a range, take graph paper, pick your targets, and hit 10 to 20 shots. And start finding what is your shot pattern. And then from there, you can start getting a very good idea. Okay, here is your average carry. And if you want extra credit, have like a Flight Scope Mevo or some sort of not like a TrackMan device. I mean, if you really want to go all out, sure, Flight Scope, TrackMan. But you can find some pretty good things like the Flight Scope Mevo or some of the other ones that have just come out. I think it's Mevo Plus. And there's a few others that I can't think of right now off the top of my head, but use those to your advantage. Find out what your carry distances are.
Yeah. Yeah, there's Top Tracer at a local driving range here that I love. But I'm hitting off of a mat with range balls not onto grass, onto, hard turf. So I'm like, how accurate is that? Because I seem to be hitting it a lot farther here than I do when I'm in a round. If I trust this, it's not consistent with my playing off of grass, off of uneven lies and hard pan and thick rough. And
yeah, I mean, that's why you need to be like a green grass facility, and it's as level as possible, so you don't have to account for elevation change, things like that. You'll see it like a Top Golf, places like that. So if you can hit off grass, then you're getting us pretty close to what you would see on the course. But the other piece that you just added in there, yes, of course, you got range balls. And so you need to find out, okay, is this range ball supposed to be designed to fly 80% or 85% of what the actual flight is? There are some out there that'll do that. So that's going to be a question for the facility that you're at.
Yeah, good call. Good call. Okay, after Brad.
So we got Dr. Quan, and we kind of talked a little bit about him. Mm-hmm. Dr. Quan is going to be basically covering the why and how behind someone like Bryson DeChambeau and how he's hitting the ball as far as possible. But more importantly, it's generated to the golfer. If they have a desire, those of you that are listening to us right now, that you want to hit the ball 20 yards further or hit it 30 yards further, you have got to watch this session, because at the end of his presentation, he's going to be sharing some amazing drills that he and we had a conversation off air, and he told me off camera that every person that has gone through those drills have gained at least 25 yards in distance.
Wow.
Yeah. So you got to watch
That'll
those.
screw you up.
You got a new problem then.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But a good one.
So now, does he show charts and graphs on the screen? Are you able to share that stuff during the summit?
Oh yeah. He'll
Awesome.
be going in depth, showing it through his presentation. Absolutely.
Great. That's Dr. Quan. And following Dr. Quan.
So then we have Mike Napoleon from Super Speed Golf. And those of you that aren't familiar with Super Speed, you could probably find their speed sticks in probably just about every tour player's bag out there. And if these guys see the importance of using this training system and it's working at that level, oh my goodness, think about the compound effect it would have on the everyday golfer. Now, keep in mind, there's a reason for why we set up the order on the summit the way we did. We first started with Dr. Davies, then we started with Dr. Quan, now we have Mike Napoleon. Because the number one thing that we want to make sure is that the golfer is going to be healthy and in a position where they can start adding speed training to their regimen. So that's where Dr. Davies, Dr. Quan come into handy, because they're laying that foundation in place. And then when you start adding in super speed, it makes things so much easier. And then we can also prevent any type of injury that comes along with that.
Wow. Smart. That's a great way to do it.
Yep.
And do you have 4 people on day 2 as well, or did you do 5?
So yeah, we got 5 as well. So we cap it off with the man himself, Nick Clearwater, the vice president of instruction at Golf Tech, a good friend of mine, awesome guy, knows his stuff, comes from a great lineage of instruction and mentors, and he's going to be presenting on data that they've collected over 1 million golfers now, and they're going to be showing basically the why and the how behind why golfers have frustration, how to eliminate that, how to ultimately get to where they want that supposed consistency in their swings. And so that's going to be one presentation they have got to watch.
Yeah, you talked about how so many golfers are leaving because they're frustrated. And in the studies that I've read, what I've kind of dissected from it is the 3 reasons that golfers leave is A, it's too hard, B, it takes too long, and 3, it's too expensive. And I know that the USGA, RNA, they've been trying to attack those in some fair way as much as they possibly can. Changing the rules as pace of play, to try to pick up the pace of play. But of course, they don't want to make the game easier, as I've always felt that they are advocates for the golf course, not the golfer. They're gonna defend the golf course much faster than they're going to defend the golfer. How do you feel about that comment?
No comment.
You must be PGA certified and can't. Well, then I think we better go to day 3 right after this. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans is part 2 of our conversation with Stan Utley on his book, The Art of Scoring. This episode was originally behind our for members only paywall, which means it's never been heard by our regular listeners, even if you were listening when it was published in 2009. But at this time, including my questions, he also answered questions from the audience.
I think the key there, that 20 to 60-yard shot that I really have people try to understand, is that I want to swing the grip into the club and my arms at a minimum. And I want to begin to really control the distance of the shot with my pivot or the turning of my body. Now, that's not to say that I'm not going to move the club head with my wrist and my arm some, but I don't want my hands raising the grip up by my shoulders in the backswing or real high on the follow-through. Because what happens is when your arm swing gets big, that's what leads to decelling. If I can keep my arm swing small, that allows me to turn my body and play the shots with an aggressive attack on the ball. Once people capture that feeling and they actually compress the ball, that's what leads them to say, can you teach me to hit a 7-iron like that?
That's part 2 with Stan Utley this week on episode 108 of Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released this Friday. Both Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Please follow both so that you can get the brand new episode of either when it downloads to your favorite listening device. Well, I apologize if I embarrassed you or put you in any uncomfortable position for that last comment. But you smoothly extricated yourself from it. So let's go to day 3 of the Consistent Golf Summit 2021. Who do you have opening it up?
So we have Andrew Rice.
Oh,
and fantastic.
Great video, great YouTube guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and he knows his stuff. I mean, one of the big reasons why we brought him on for this year's summit was because I remember coming across his, it's called the Wedge Project. And it was an amazing, amazing DVD series that he created. And it went into the research of everything that he found in using TrackMan with the wedge. And, like basically he was covering things like what happens if you hit a fat shot? What happens if you hit grass in between the ball? He talks about the friction. What happens if on a high-speed camera, if you still hit a decent shot, even though you're hitting about 8 to 10 inches behind the ball? I mean, there were so many cool things that he shared inside that Wedge Project. And more importantly, he showed you, how to create a spinner like Jordan Spieth. That's the one shot that everybody's like, oh, I want to know how to hit that shot. Well, he shows you the exact way, I would say, behind actually being able to pull that shot off and for the everyday golfer to be able to hit that shot. And he actually covers it on the summit too, so it's really cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Andrew Rice. Good call. Good call on that one. All right. And second on day 3.
So we got Adam Bazalgett, a good friend of mine. He's the founder of Scratch Golf Academy.
Yeah, he was on last year. We had him on, didn't we?
Yep. Absolutely. And his background, it's, really, he's got a lot of really good mentors over the years. He was a David Ledbetter guy. Andy Plummer and Mike Bennett became good friends of his, and he's done a lot of things with them as well. He's on with Andrew Rice with Golf Fanatics. And his content, I've always been impressed by how well he presents it on YouTube. He takes, again, some very complex things, puts it in a manner that the everyday golfer can apply it and learn from it.
Right.
And so I love that. And so that session is going to be talking about the common swing faults that are absolutely killing people's consistency in their games. And he's going to be showing you in a very interactive way. And that was the one thing that we wanted to do differently for this year's summit, is to do more demonstration. And so he actually goes more in depth on how to actually fix some of the things like fat, thin shots, how to fix the slice, how to fix the hook, how do we fix those type of shots that drives people crazy. And he goes in detail on that.
And the Consistent Golf Summit is video. It's not just like what we're talking audio here. It's a video summit.
Yep.
With all these teachers. And so is Adam able to give you video insights on this? Is he doing this full screen type of stuff?
Absolutely. So like the cool thing about our session for that one is it's very interactive. I'm asking him some of the common questions that golfers struggle with, like our fat or thin shots. And then he's taking it and going into detail of the how and the why behind it. And then more importantly, okay, here's some drills that you can work on to improve that.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Great. All right. Up third.
So we have Me and My Golf, Piers Ward and Andy Proudman, good friends of mine. And the cool thing about them is they've developed amazing following on YouTube, social media, and various platforms out there. And I remember coming across their content back in the beginning years before they had all the cool graphics and the amazing team behind them. And they always had a really good way of presenting information. And so
we
we
have
followed
a lot of fun together. I have definitely watched their YouTube stuff.
Oh yeah, it's always comical, especially when you get into the outtakes. Those guys are hilarious when you get them off camera and they're going through and they film something that was an oops for them. It's so funny, especially when you listen to their English accent. Let's put it that way.
Right,
it's so good. But when you look at what they're presenting on, they're going to be covering, I think, two of the most absolutely frustrating shots that plague all golfers. Even tour players will struggle with the S word, but they're going to be covering the top fairway wood, and then that dreaded S word, the shank. And then there's a few other things that they go into detail on in their presentation. But those two big ones right there are going to be something that these golfers have got to tune in for, because if you struggle with that top fairway shot, oh my goodness, there's nothing more frustrating. You hit a great drive on a par 5 and you're like, okay, I'm going to reach this green in 2, definitely going to have a chance at birdie. And then you proceed to hit your second shot and you top it with a fairway wood. So I know every single listener can relate to that in some form or fashion. It's happened to even the best. I remember even watching, oh man, what was it? I think it was Matthew Wolff. No, it was one of other, I think it was, I cannot think of his, Kong. I remember seeing him, it was like several months back. He had done it, or I think he hit a fat fairway wood, but nonetheless, it is so frustrating when you're in striking position and you top that fairway or you hit it fat. They're going to be talking about that. And then the shank, tour players, Luke Donald, Steve Stricker, there's some of the more common ones that they'll definitely hit a shank. And if that's you, have got to watch their session to prevent it.
Fabulous. Oh my gosh. Batting cleanup on day 3. Number 4 is...
Oh, man, the legend himself, been a really good friend and mentor to me over these last several months, is Sean Foley.
Oh, wow.
So
I did honestly, that's the one that I watched. I did see Sean. He was amazing because he didn't talk he went, I'll let you talk about it. I was really impressed.
Yeah, it was really cool because, I got the text message from you right after it, Fred, and you're like, that was amazing. We got so many feedback and compliments and comments on that particular session. And I that's what I love about Sean. Sean is kind of like a no-filter type guy. He really just speaks truth and just tells it like it is, and I love that about him. He even tells a funny story on the summit about his Instagram feud thing that he had, and Sean is Sean, and he is one of the best out there when it comes to just the knowledge of the game and the swing and everything in between. And it's a reason why he's having the success that he's having. He states it up front. Nobody's going to outwork him. And I love that about him because he's such a researcher, and he does an amazing job of finding like different experts in different fields and things like that, and finding mentors. And he does a great job of that. Kind of like the Henry Ford approach. He's fantastic at that. I think Henry Ford himself said at one time, look, I don't have all the answers in the world, but if I need to find an answer, I know the person I need to go to get that answer from. And Sean's kind of that way, but Sean is extremely well versed when it comes to the full swing knowledge and the biomechanics and everything that goes along with it, the physiology. He goes into depth on all those things that basically plague the everyday golfer when it comes to consistency and ultimately reaching their peak potential. And Sean does a fantastic job of showing them, here's the barriers that you're facing, here's how you get around it. And a lot of it is just tough truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he doesn't look like a golf guy. You look at him and go, wait a minute, that's a golf guy? This is a fashion guy. This is this guy is hip. What is he doing teaching golf? And then who conclude? I'm guessing that the last one is up next for the 3-day summit.
So the last one up is a good friend of mine, and I consider him a partner as well, is Shawn Chesky. And the amazing thing about him is that he was the U.S. speed skating coach for 144 national champions, 8 world champions, and then 2 Olympic medalists.
You introduced me to him last year, and we had him on the show. He was fabulous.
I mean, it's just amazing with what he's been able to accomplish in his resume. And what we did was, when I started to learn more about him and his system, and the cool thing that we were able to partner on and come together with is transferring that amazing success from the speed skating world to the golf world. And I knew if we were able to transfer that to the golf world, it was going to change the game of golf overnight. And it already is. With the people that we're coming into contact with on a regular basis, we are seeing the most amazing turnaround and progress as far as taking people from, I don't know, maybe the average strokes drop that we're seeing in our 3-month program right now is 6.7 shots in 90 days or less.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a selling point right there.
I mean, I'm a big performance and numbers and results type of person. I tell people all the time, you have to measure what you're doing. And if you can't measure it, then you have no basis. It's like a doctor. Whenever a patient comes to see a doctor and they broke their bone, well, it's very easy to point that out on a X-ray or an MRI.
Metrics, baby. It's all about the metrics.
And you got to be able to do that in golf. And I think the sad part in this game, a lot of instructors are missing that piece. And I think if golfers and professional or instructors alike can up that part of the game, and that's why the summit is not just for the everyday golfer, it's also for the everyday instructor too. And we were very adamant about doing that. It's an education experience for them as well. And I really believe if they can go through this and they start adding this into their everyday interaction with golfers, this game as a whole is going to improve across the board. But Shannon's session, it's awesome. So the numbers speak for themselves. I don't think there needs any more introduction than that. They got to watch that session.
Well, listen, if we just went over a brief overview of the 3 full days with 15 different instructors, and if you feel like you've got the sense of the Consistent Golf Summit and don't need any more, then you weren't paying attention. Go back and listen to this conversation all over again, because he just teased us with each of these guys. And you even if there's 2 or 3 or 1 of these teachers that you think, the topic was worthwhile to you, then you got to check out the whole thing. So let's talk about costs, signing up. What do we do for that?
So there's 2 ways. You have 2 options. The first option is you can pay up front for $97 when someone comes in and registers. So it's $97. They're going to get not only access to the live summit, but they're also going to get access to all the recordings from the summit. They're going to get access to the audio files if they want to listen to, maybe they prefer listening to it just through their speaker on their car ride to work. Maybe they're jogging, working out. So we offer that. It also gives them speaker bonuses. And I truly believe the speaker bonuses that we brought together are almost more than worth paying the $97, because you're going to get a full 30 days to Me and My Golf's entire membership. And when you go through and you calculate the value of all that, I know it was over $1,100 just for what you're getting access into Me and My Golf's 30-day access to their membership. Chris Ryan's Ultimate Ball Striking course, it's coming in that as well. And that course alone sells for $69 by itself. You're getting that for free inside the All Access when you register. Dr. Craig Davies mini tour membership to his app is $239. You're getting that I think free for 6 months. Wow. It's just amazing stuff. So that's option 1. They can come in, they can pay up front. They're getting all that. Or
when you say up front, that means pay before the event happens.
Correct.
Pay in advance.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, I've had people, and here's the crazy thing. We hosted this in April Fred, I had people email us in our team, and they said, I cannot believe that you charge $97 for this. You should have charged at least $497, $997 or up. I've had several of those emails.
And wow. And
Because
we're
when
not talking about 4.97, we're talking 497.
correct, that's correct.
So, well, the value's there. Clearly the value's there. So what's the second option?
So the second option is for those that are maybe they're on the fence, maybe they're a little hesitant. They're like, I want to see if this is really, right for me. Is it truly worth all that value? They can come in, watch the entire summit for free. There is literally no catch whatsoever. All they have to do is make sure they register their card info. They go through the entire 3-day summit live. And then for whatever reason, if they I didn't think it was valuable, I didn't get anything out of it. I mean, it was literally, you could come up with any reason in the world. And if you didn't feel like it was worth anything at all, then you would just ultimately send an email in that I will release on the last day of the summit. I'll tell them the specific email to email. All they got to do is say, hey, I didn't get anything out of it. Please don't charge my card.
Okay.
No strings attached whatsoever. And we'll make sure that there's no charge on the card whatsoever. So they can literally come in and watch it for free.
That's amazing. All right. So they watch the 3 days for free. They register to watch for free, but then do decide, okay, you know what? That was remarkable. And there's all these added benefits if I do pay. Mm-hmm. So what is the cost if you pay for those after you've watched it and you decide you want to hang on, keep all the audio, keep all the videos, get all the printed materials, all these memberships you're talking about?
Yep.
How much does that cost?
So it's a single one-time payment of $147. So that's
all right,
why
so it's an additional $50.
Yep. And that's why, hey, it's encouraging or a benefit to possibly do the most popular option, which is the 97 up front.
And so if you pay up front and you've watched it for 3 days, then, and you're like, yeah, that was okay. That wasn't great. Can I get my 97 back?
Absolutely. So we got to
you don't get access to any of those other bonus materials.
Correct.
Because those aren't released until the end of the 3rd day.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a 7-day money back guarantee, literally no strings attached, any reason whatsoever. They could send an email in and say, hey, look, I didn't get anything from this. Please refund it. That's no problem, no issue whatsoever. Our mission, Fred, at the end of the day is ultimately is help 100,000 golfers shoot their new lifetime low rounds. That's what drives us every single day. Our team, when we get up out of the bed every single day, that's what we're on a mission to do. And this is one of those necessary means to help as many golfers as possible. And so we wanted to price this thing at such a low price for the terms of the value that they're going to receive and make it where anybody can get in and afford it. Whereas, most people are saying we should be charging 10x.
Well, you've figured something out here, buddy. I'm really impressed. And I think what you've put together is a really spectacular show or event, a 3-day event. And I'm really happy to share it with our audience so they can get to it themselves. Thank you so much for your time and for putting this together, man. This is great.
Absolutely.
And so you go to consistentgolfsummit.com for all of this. And you have multiple websites. You have BoWatsonGolf.com. You have schooloflifetimelowrounds.com. But this is all at consistentgolfsummit.com.
Yeah, so it's going to be at consistentgolfsummit.com. And we're actually going to set up a specific link for your audience. They can go to either or, but we'll be consistentgolfsummit.com/golfsmarter.
Surprise me. Okay, great. Oh, that's great. Well, thank you. Yeah, so that way if you sign up, make sure that you go, and I'll add the link to the show notes. Make sure that you go to consistentgolfsummit.com/golfsmarter, and that way he knows that you came from Golf Smarter, and he'll give me a pat on the back.
Yep.
He'll say thank you, Fred. All right. Bo, great talking to you, buddy. Good luck with this, and can't wait to fill in the blanks and do it all again next year.
Absolutely, Fred. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I love ambitious guys like him. Bo is awesome, and I love what he puts together. I hope you check it out because it is definitely worthwhile. It's 3 intensive days of Golf Smarter. Maybe I'm too excited about our countdown towards episode 800 because the following week will be episode 801 with another one of our regular interviews about game improvement or equipment or golf lifestyle. But the fact that you and I are still talking to each other and that we continue to have new golf martyrs join our community into our 16th year of weekly episodes seems to be a big deal. So for episode 800, I'm hoping to focus on the greatest lessons and takeaways that we've both experienced. Now at this point, Maddie B has agreed to conduct the interview of me exploring my progress since starting this show in 2005, but I also really want to hear from you. What have you learned? What is your greatest takeaway? What do you want to ask me? Don't just send me an email, which that's fine, you can do that, but I really encourage you to call our Golf Smarter hotline at 415-761-1498 and record your best story, lesson, or question, and it will be included in episode 800. Deadline to submit your calls is at the close of the 2021 U.S. Open, which is Sunday, June 20th. Again, the toll-free number to call is 415-761-1498. And I'll continue to remind you as we get closer, but start thinking about it now, and when you're ready, call 415-761-1498. Now, I'll leave that number in the show notes and a link at golfsmarter.com. Actually, the link is up and it's right on our homepage. Follow at Golf Smarter in social media, especially Instagram, and follow Golf Smarter TV on YouTube. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on what you'd like to hear on an upcoming interview, I'd love to hear from you. Just click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.